Shalom, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a live episode of Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. It is Wednesday, October the 9th, 2024. And as I always say, it's a great day to be alive and well, because if you woke up today, even if you don't feel great in any type of way, it is still a blessing to wake up. So we give God glory and honor today for waking all of us up, because everybody have that testimony. We have a great show in store for you tonight. And we have back by popular demand Romain Diaz, who's a licensed professional counselor. She's a movement psychotherapist, a therapist, and a wellness coach. And she is phenomenal. I mean, take each one of those letters individually, and that's how phenomenal she is. So again, she's back by popular demand, and we're going to be talking. We're in our self-care, total wellness and self-care series, and so we're continuing that today. And Nikki, okay, that's her nickname, middle name. And so if you hear me going back and forth between Romain and Nikki, because I'm not used to calling her Romain, it's the same person. We're talking about the same person. All right. So Romain is going to share about her self-care journey and add some things that are going to be more insightful than scratching the surface of self-care, which I can say that is what we commonly do. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper tonight into self-care and talk about the vulnerability of self-care. Because if you really get deep into self-care, we tap into that vulnerable part of ourselves where we don't like to tread, because those are where our issues are and where our traumas lie. So we're going to talk about digging deeper into self-care to be able to deal with our true identity and those things about ourselves, as opposed to staying on the surface of self-care. And the surface has its place, like lighting candles and things of that nature. It has its place. But to have real change in your life and in your physical being, in your mental and emotional wellness, in your spirit, that takes a deeper look, a deeper dive into yourself and admitting some things to yourself and then doing some work. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So I hope you're ready as Nikki and myself and Sandra, as we share, think about your own stuff and how you can go deeper into your self-care journey, because we all have stuff. We all have issues. So let's not be in denial. Every human being living, and even ones who were dead when they were living, had issues, because we're flawed. So think about what you can do with your true identity, not the facade that you might put on at work or with family members or friends or whomever. The true you that you know that's in there, and even some of the hidden things that you may want to be revealed so you can do something about, which is probably what's affecting behaviors and thoughts and things of that nature that you have, because that's what needs to happen. But we're going to get all into that. And I'm going to bring my co-host up right now, Sandra Lee. How are you, Sandra Lee?
Hey, Sharon, how you doing? I'm
I'm well.
excited. Listen, Romaine is back, and I'm excited because I know she got so much good stuff to talk about. So I'm
Yes,
just
he does.
sitting, waiting in the wings for her to come on.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we bring Romaine on, let's see
Okay.
who's on the stream. Honey Bunches got first as usual, almost. But hey,
Okay.
Gwen is not there, because I know Gwen has been trying to take over Honey Bunch's spot.
Yes,
So,
but you know what? I can tell you, she won't be on tonight because she takes
oh,
swimming lessons, and so she
okay,
said that she's going to be doing the swimming, so she won't be on.
gotcha.
She wanted to tell us she hate that she's going to miss it, but she'll look at it later.
All right. Well, hey, Honey Bunches, and hey,
Hey,
Netta. Netta's watching as well, and Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen. How are you? And Honey Bunches says she's watching with Amira and Aisha. Oh, the sisters are together. All
okay.
right. All right. Hello, Amira. Hello, Aisha. Thank you, ladies, for watching.
Yes. Hey, girls.
Tiffany. Tiffany's watching. She says, "Hey, everybody. Tiffany's my
Hey,
cousin."
okay, Tiffany. All right.
All right, so we're going to bring on the great, the wonderful
Yay.
Romain Diaz. Clap it up, Romain
Yes,
Diaz.
Romaine. Woo,
Hello,
yes.
hello. I'm so
Hey, girl.
excited. Hey. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Yes.
And to
As
give
we are.
you a little sneak peek, some of these things I haven't talked about before.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So, first
Yes.
first journey,
Okay.
you
Love
know,
it.
speaking it. you know, in a
Okay.
wider audience, I guess you want to
Okay.
say. And I wanted to save it for the conversation that we're talking about, being vulnerable and
Oh
self-care.
wow.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love
And
it.
talk
I love
about
it.
taking a step. I mean, considering this is the internet, this is a global stage,
Yes, it
Yes.
is.
right?
Yes.
So you're coming all the way out.
All the way, honey.
All the way. It took me a while to even get on social media, even
Yes.
business wise. So that's a whole other conversation about being vulnerable.
Yes.
Well,
Um,
I
uh,
just thank you for, what's the word? For allowing us in this platform to be
Yes.
the place where you feel safe enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
right.
there is a safety factor, right? To feel
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
safe enough.
100%.
Yeah, to share things that you've never shared before. So
Yeah.
I feel privileged and honored.
I'm so honored and
Yeah.
privileged. Thank you
Thank you
so much
guys.
for sharing with us.
I'm excited because I'm hoping
Yes.
that whoever's on this platform here listening tonight can
Hmm.
benefit and maybe touch something in their heart and spirit, and maybe whoever's watching after the show finish airing, that hopefully we can connect to that
All
spirit too.
right.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Well,
All right.
Romain, before you get into introducing yourself and what you do, I'm going to share a few things and a few other comments from people just logged on. April Cobb says, "Hey, hey, hey,"
Hey,
and
April. Hey, it's my
Rachel
friend
says,
April.
Hey auntie, I see you
"Look
too.
at
Hey
Rachel
April.
watching. Hey, Auntie."
All right.
And if you are watching via YouTube or Facebook, um, please write something in the chat, say hello, anything. Because if you don't, then we won't know that you're watching and we can't shout you out. We can't post your what you say on the feed. However, if you choose not to say anything, that is okay too. However
Absolutely.
you choose to work, but just letting you know if you want us to shout you out or read your question, you have to type something in the feed. Now,
Hmm.
also too, if you could take this very moment that I'm saying this right now, if you're watching during YouTube, watching via YouTube, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It's sitting right there. The subscribe button is right underneath the
Hmm.
video. Click the subscribe button. And then you
Hmm.
see all with the bell, with the all, you click all. That means every time we're live, you'll get a notification so you don't have to try to remember, oh, it's when does that show come on? Right? And if
Yes.
you're watching via Facebook, like the page and do the same thing. Click the notification bell so you can be notified when we are on. So share the video also and like the video. All these things help the algorithm and help us to be on and produce a better quality show and have the longevity of the show because it
Hmm.
gets in front of more people. And so you know how the whole social media thing
Yes.
works. So
Hmm.
do that for us at any time that you think of it about the show. And hopefully I'll remember to say it again, to subscribe and to follow. So, with that being said, and without further
Right.
ado,
Yes.
Ming, share with the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do professionally, and
Mhm.
other things you might care to share.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Romain Diaz. I'm a licensed professional counselor as well as a dance movement therapist. I just have the pleasure each and every day to do this work and have a great team of 14 individuals, clinicians to breast cancer wellness advocate to a psychologist, and we just build this close relationship and bond in this field. And you need skilled, not only just skilled individuals, right, but people that are coming out and having a purpose when you are
Mhm.
meeting with clients. And I'm just like super blessed to grow the team. We we support 3 mastery schools right now doing individual group therapy. um, we provide support with early intervention. We do a lot of grief work in the city. Just did some things this week. That means if something is going on, grief related crisis intervention, they call us. We come out and we support that
Mhm.
site or that individual, etc. We just do a couple different things
Yes.
in the neighborhood. So I'm just super excited to do this work and have the ability to do this work each and every day.
All right. It's
Awesome.
beautiful. Yes.
Shout out to the team. Hey.
All right.
All right. So, Romain, tell us a little bit about your self care journey and how it developed.
Yeah. So for those that know me personally, right? And I think I'm the same either way, but for those that know me personally, I'm definitely a hard worker. I've come from a long line of just hardworking women and men in our family. Um, and I've been working since I was 14. Always had 2 or 3 jobs and always like to go out there and make sure I have coins in my bank account, and just really just a hard worker. And I was just teasing someone recently about like all my siblings, we have the same work ethics, every single person, and it comes from our mother and our father. And with that though, you tend to overwork yourself, right? And growing a business is always going to be days where you have just a lot of work, because it's just you running it, the back end of things. But just in general, I had to learn to provide some self-care when things popped up, such as, making a decision like, okay, all right, I'm waking up, I'm really not feeling well today, but guess what? So and so is looking for me. So and so is expecting me to be there. Oh, if I call out, think of the times that I work inpatient psych and being a part of leadership. If I call out, then that means they're going to need this person, and we're not going to have coverage here. And you're like, oh, you know what, mine? So I'll just come in, regardless of how I'm feeling today. And then always would jam me up because I'll get there and go, I should have stayed home. Right. And I had someone, one of my really good friends and colleagues was like, Romain, the building's not going to burn down because you didn't come out today. Right. And I was like, you're right. But every time I will put myself in that predicament, for example, with that example, I will always feel like I jam myself up. The only person that's suffering is me. Right. So those are kind of like the early signs of just need to take care of myself, especially in your 20s when you're hustling and bustling and trying to set everything up. Right. That's the stage of development, is to make sure you're grounded. And like, this a day, I don't know if I can do that. Right. And those are the beginning parts of, I need to start taking care of myself. I don't know if anybody in the audience can attest to that as well.
Well, I can attest to it. On previous shows, and it wasn't until I think it was when was George Floyd murdered? 2019, no, 2020. So 2021, I was just, because I did the news on social medias and I had to delve into the news and watch videos over and over so I could be versed in it. And a lot of things I talked about had to deal with racial issues. And the culmination of doing that, and then specifically once, George Floyd was murdered, it like took me over the top, health wise. And I'm going to say never really practiced self-care. Of course, we do like those surface things I talked about earlier, right? But it wasn't until, the cop who, offed him, certain things you say it, because certain things you say on social media, they'll flag your videos. So there's certain words you can't say. So when they him, the cop, and he had his trial, I mean, I couldn't even watch the trial. Normally, I'm watching all of this type of stuff, but and I would just cry and cry and cry, just because you can't get away from not watching it intentionally. Like you hear something like that, and it's like right there on the surface. You would think, my whole family was murdered or something.
That's the trauma response. Because watching it is part of trauma.
Right. And it's racial trauma. Right. Vicarious racial trauma, which is what I'm doing my dissertation on, because that's how the Lord brought it to me. Like for me having that experience, now I'll write about it. But anyway, it's another story. So that's when I really started practicing more self-care, because I was like, this is crazy. I can't function like this. Right. I had professors and like, I can't. And I was taking a trauma class at the time. Can you believe that? Right.
Oh gosh. On top of that. Oh Lord.
Really understanding. But it was just the fact that I had never experienced life like that before. I'm handing in my work late. And again, they were understanding. It was just like, I couldn't get myself together. And then I think I didn't, I took a semester off. It was just, of course, I stopped doing the news show and I stopped doing other shows. It was just like, I got to get off of social media. And not to say, I got to stop doing the show on social media because I had to, delve into it too much. And I have Black people, we have our own racial trauma.
Absolutely. Right? But even for you to say, hey, you started connecting the dots, because we can ignore that real quick and go, well, maybe it's today, or maybe it's just a situation. But what you did is you linked it up. You said, no, this is stemming from a lot of different things. And as we're talking about self-care and vulnerability, right, is really tapping down and saying, when we dig in deep, this is the reason why I'm feeling it.
Right. Yep.
right? This is the reason why I'm having this emotional response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not saying you have to own it, like and carry it around all day, but
Right.
you got to address it.
You have
Right.
to.
You got to address it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
if you
reminds,
don't,
huh?
right, it festers and then it
Oh,
comes out in your behavior, in your speech, in your communication, in your relationship, because it can't not come out because that's how our mental health works.
absolutely. Even the things that you watch, like I'm very just doing this work, especially um, when I was working in the hospital solely on the kids unit, and I was working 9 years in the kids unit at the time. You hear some horror stories, of course, if you guys can imagine, I imagine, but um, sometimes I had to take a break from working with the kids. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I felt like, based on this situation, I was like, oh, these people are hurting these kids. It's like, you're enraged. But also just certain shows that I felt like, when I get home, I'm not watching. Like, I'm not watching. No shade to these
Oh
shows.
yeah,
I think they're,
absolutely.
people rave about them shows, and like I'm not watching Law and Order SVU. No, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not watching a whole lot of shoot 'em up um, shows um, because I need to take care of myself. Those things can
Right.
get embedded in your brain, get embedded in your spirit, especially when you're dealing with that on a professional level, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
those are things that could come up too when you're thinking about self-care and really diving into, well, why is that sitting home with
Mm-hmm.
me, and why am I having that trauma response, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. When you're talking earlier about, well, let me just go into work even though I don't feel good. Let me just go ahead anyway. I have always been one of those. I thought that they
Ah,
would not do anything in that job without me because when I would walk in, they right there. Sandra, I need this, I need this, I need this. So of course I'm wanting to be needed. Who don't want to be needed? That's
right.
number
That's
one.
the hierarchy of needs,
Okay. I want to
Maslow.
be needed. I wanted all of this love that my clients are showing me. So I'm walking in, but I'm getting burned out because of the job that I'm at now. I've been at 21 years, right? Thank you, Sharon. She hired me. Thank you, Sharon.
And
Ah,
it's mental health work too. That's the
Mental
thing.
health, yes,
yeah,
yes. Mental
yeah,
health and addiction, right? And
Right.
so what was happening, it just every time the door was open, not to mention when I'm off work, I'm constantly doing work for my job, right?
hmm,
And so I started to feel like when I would walk in, like, oh, to get on my nerves. And I'm always up
that's
there,
the,
hey, y'all,
that's
hey,
the energy. Yeah, you brought that energy now, right?
all the energy and love I could bring. But then I noticed this is some years ago when I turned 50, even though I'm 61 now, when I turned 50, I had to make some decisions because I felt myself like they were getting on my nerves. Like, what do you want? And that's never, it was never like that. So I had to make some decisions. Say, Sandra, what is the problem? The problem is because you think that you are a superwoman. Sharon told me years ago that, Sandra, you don't have no S on your chest, even and
Right.
that's a Sandra. You're not a
Right.
superwoman. You can't save everybody. You're doing the most. And so
Yes,
I had
as the young kids say.
because I do the most. I'm one of those. When I finally got it in my head, my body's starting to jack up, my blood pressure's
That's
high,
right.
my head is spinning,
That's
and,
right.
and 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 so I had to say, Sandra, they will be all right when you're
They
not
will
there.
be
And so
okay.
that's what you have to realize that, you know what? And we've all seen it. When someone passes away, I don't care how wonderful they are, you miss them, but the next day, everything's still set. Everything's, like, I thought y'all gonna close the building and shut down. Life still goes on.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so because of that, you have to take the time to step back and say, okay, I'm gonna give you 100%, but I can't give you 150 and 120. I can't
right.
do it because it's
But
taking too much of me.
right. But the
You know.
question is to dig deeper, but why you can't. And that's the
Mhm.
part, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes we're trying to explain it to the other person, like, well, because I got a lot of things to do, da, da, da.
right,
We get the surface. No, why can't you do that?
right.
Because if I give this much or I show up to work, right? Um, and I know I'm being dramatic when I say this, but I'm losing pieces of my life.
You better stop that. You know you're right. That's you
You know,
saying the
you know
truth
what I
though.
mean?
Please,
I
please.
remember being
Okay.
at work when I had to leave that job, right?
Hmm.
And many reasons why I had to leave that job, and I was fighting it within myself. I was doing my private practice and that at the same time, but It was hard for me to leave for multiple reasons: comfortability, pay, love. I love the staff. I love what I was
Right,
doing. I just didn't
right,
like
exactly.
the hierarchy of things, and I was a
Mhm.
part of the hierarchy.
Right.
I was the one fighting, like, I don't like this, whatever. And one day I was sitting in a treatment team meeting and just irritated about everything that was going on in the meeting.
Mhm.
And I went to go say something. This is not a lie, y'all. I went to go say something and the words could not come out. And I was sitting there scared out of my mind because I'm
Mm.
like, am I having a stroke?
Mm.
Or is God telling me don't speak? And when I tell you I was fighting, because I'm a little bit of a fighter, a little feisty. I was really fighting through, like trying to say the words to get with whoever I needed to get to.
Mm.
And then I started scaring myself because I was like, well, then if I'm trying to get these words out that's obviously not meant to come out,
Right.
then, oh God, am I having a stroke? Like, I had to do all these internal, and I
Mhm.
had to step away and really,
Right.
well, first of all, pray that I
Right.
wasn't having a stroke, right?
Mhm.
Pray, like, what do I need to know right now? Because
Mhm.
maybe I'm so stubborn, I'm so in the moment that I'm not catching the signs,
Mhm.
So let's look at it both ways. If it
Right.
was a stroke, then I need to simmer down right then and there, right?
Right. Mhm.
And two, if God's saying, hey, shut up, and I wasn't listening the first time,
Okay.
Right.
and guess what? Because you keep pushing through, you think you're stronger than I am,
Right.
then I'm gonna take those words right out your
Your
mouth.
way. Mhm.
And I said, I'm gonna go simmer down and I'm gonna figure out. And and I was scared, and I did start tearing up in the meeting, but I don't think no one noticed. I think they were noticing I was trying to say something, and then they just kind of moved on to the next person.
Right.
I was over there like, nobody see this, like nobody, and I'm in a
Mhm.
meeting with a doctor too, because it's doctors, nurses, everybody in the meeting.
Mhm.
And I'm like, Doc, somebody, what's going on? And am I having a stroke? Um, but and when I say about vulnerability, I didn't care who was around. I shed some tears because I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm putting myself in this predicament,
Right.
um, and how I need to handle that, handle myself.
Mhm.
It went
Mhm.
beyond for me,
Mhm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'm like, then I'm losing and then I'm not gonna be around for my kids and my husband, everybody
Right.
else that loves me and
Mhm.
care for me.
Mhm.
But that was definitely a scary moment, and I had to like go. I'm allowing these people or this situation to enter my spirit so much so
Mhm.
that I needed either quiet or I had a stroke, which I don't think I had
Right.
a stroke,
Hmm.
but that
Right.
was the feeling, you know.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mm, mm,
How
mm.
long? How long did that last in that moment where you couldn't speak?
Good question. I'ma say maybe 5 seconds. Because I'm
Mhm.
Okay.
thinking of like telling somebody, let's just say I'm saying I don't like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, did that just, and I had to say, and after a while, I'm pushing myself through and I go, oh, no, 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 no. Something ain't right.
Mm.
Hmm.
Something ain't right. And the
Okay.
scary piece, and we're talking about vulnerability and self-care. At first, you're like, oh, something going on, something's wrong with my brain.
Mhm.
And I started to be like, let me surrender
Hmm.
because the fight was so strong.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to get them words out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fight was so strong.
Mm.
And
Wow.
the tearfulness was, yes, I was scared and all that. But at the end, it was because I had to surrender.
Hmm.
And that's a hard thing to do.
Now, let me ask you a question, Romain. When you're talking about vulnerability, can you explain like what is vulnerability in the context of health and personal
Absolutely.
experience? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I will hope that as I'm sharing this next example or story, that people are able to give their definition of vulnerability and what that
Right.
means. So
Mhm.
hopefully we can see some chatter
Right.
in the chat, because everybody has their own version of it. It depends what age you are, maybe
Mhm.
nationality, your culture. Some people don't believe in vulnerability, right? Or so I would like to see as we're in this chat.
Mhm.
And my definition of vulnerability for me,
Mhm.
right, is to let go of control,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
um to let in control doesn't always have to mean I always want to control people in this, like them, right? It
Mhm.
might be I need to control the situation so I can feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Not
Yeah.
so much I have to get my way.
Right.
I'm looking for safety. And something seems to be unsafe, whether it be the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
the
Okay.
scariness of the unknown, right?
Right.
Um, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
That scares me. That presents a fear,
Okay.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
fear leaves you open,
Yes, it does.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about vulnerability and self care, I'll tell you on a spiritual and one is a little different medically. Um, so medically, I this is after I had my son, who's 11 right now, and I being in this field, the questions they're going to ask you after you have a baby, right? You go to your 6 week checkup,
Mm-hmm.
and it's your postpartum follow
Yeah.
up. And I'm in the elevator, like, all right, I already know what this meeting's going to be about. I'm just going in the elevator. This is what I'm telling myself. All
Uh-huh.
right, she's going to ask this, and that, because I kind of know the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rolling out. I got to get back home to my baby. And I had it planned. I had it circling, like, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I get in there. I get in her office. She comes out. She goes, so how's it go? All she said was, how's it going? I
Yes.
don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where I'm going right now. What's going on? And I just bawled.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm not going to hurt nobody or myself. Because, that's what they would ask. I'm like,
Right.
I'm going to get this out. And after I did that, and I got in the elevator, somebody might have thought I was bipolar between my mood switching. I got in the elevator and I was like, I actually needed that.
Right. Right. Right.
Myself, because I was like, girlfriend, you was over there creating a whole scene.
Okay.
What you was going to do. You was
Right.
going to sit there and fraud. Like everything was okay.
Right.
But I also thought, in all honesty, this woman cannot relate. So there's no need to waste my time with her.
Okay.
She's going to ask me these questions. And then she can be like, all right, move on to her next client.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a particular need that I had. That's where I was trying to control the situation.
Right.
And I felt like she couldn't. But part of being vulnerable is to say, let me take this chance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And get that out. And it was helpful.
Right.
And that's why I was cracking myself up in the elevator, like, girl, you're wrong. You knew you needed that support and you should have just let go. Right. But that does take a sense of dropping your guard, which everybody has their guard up.
Yep.
For many reasons in their life.
Right. That's true.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the part of opening yourself for that next place of vulnerability, because you never know what you're going to get in return.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a little nugget of knowledge. You might just get something of support. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. You're missing that opportunity because you don't have the gate.
Right.
Right.
The lock.
The lock. Yeah.
What else?
Right.
The chain. The chain. The thing that you look at the
suit of armor.
The suit of armor. And then we got a nerve to say, but I'm looking for somebody to be a relationship or somebody to be close with. You can't look for something when you won't have yourself open.
Right. That's true. That's right.
How are we looking for a new job? All these things, and we allow ourselves to be open.
Right. That's true.
And what are we giving out with that suit of armor on?
Yeah, because I'm out. If I see a suit of armor, somebody come next to me, I'm out.
Right.
People like to prepare for something.
Right.
And because I grew up where I grew up at, you see somebody with some armor like that, I'm out.
Right.
It's hard to engage.
Yes. Right? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So let me
reason why we do it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So when I was talking about earlier what I was, going through back then, I would have different meetings with the different professors to tell them why I was needed to hand them in my work late and all of that. And again, they were all understanding. And also too, when I went to take the comps for, how you get to take comps, the whole degree and in a test and a week of testing.
And that
and so I had to go in front of the committee to talk about, a case scenario, a case that they give you when you have to treat it, do the treatment and all that kind of stuff. And then and one of the things they're always talking about is counter transference, which for those of you who don't know, when you're in therapy, the client, and they transfer some of their stuff onto not so much that the therapist receives it, but onto the therapist. So to say, if the client had mommy issues, the therapist becomes the mommy, right?
Right.
And work out their issues with the therapist. Now, it's not that the client knows this; they don't. This is just happening because it's transferring. I'm seeing you as that person. So the counter transference is what happens to the therapist when they hear things that the client says that resonate with them, because the therapist is human too, right? So in my doing this sitting in front of the committee, doing this a case presentation for my comps to pass the comps,
right. I know those comps. I know that life.
Right. So I had to talk about the counter transference of a young lady who I was seeing who is in an interracial relationship, marriage, and there were some issues with her in-laws. And so there was some racial trauma.
Right.
Well, what did I just tell you about with me? Racial trauma.
Right.
So then, because that was my case scenario, then here it's so right under the brown of my skin. That means it's not far. That means if prick there's like the wound is right there. It's not a deep, it's a deep wound. It's a big wound from surface to depth, right?
Right.
And I'm talking about racial trauma, and I believe it's how it is for I'll say many, not most Black people.
Right.
So when I'm explaining this, I'm just like, and you could just hear it in my voice. And I always say it, I was like, I'm getting emotional right now. And the voice starts to crack, the tears start to come. And again, this is the cops. And I'm, presenting my thing, but I'm talking about countertransference, right? And how I, had to deal with that or whatever. And so whenever, and even still, whenever I talk about now, right now, I'm doing pretty good, because what will happen is, as Sandra knows, I talked about this before, it's right there. And I'll be like, I'm feeling it right now. You can probably tell, you hear my voice cracking, because now this is just my professional opinion.
Right.
This is racial trauma is not post-traumatic stress disorder, because post, it means it happened before, it's over, but I'm still experiencing
it. It's still living. It's still going.
Ongoing, right? So the healing, you can't ever really get a healing and then it's done, because we still experience it every day. So that's why it's still so close to the surface, because I can't get true healing because it's still there.
Right.
So like some days are better than others, but it's just like, if I go to talk about it, it's like sometimes it's just like I gotta go through it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm thankful you share that too, because as we're talking about this place of vulnerability, I started thinking about, in your example, Sharon, I started thinking about grief and loss. Right? Because some of us are grieving over a lot of various different things, right? Grieving that this situation is still carrying on, right? And there's, as I think we mentioned a little bit last time we got together, but the 5 stages of grief, right? And in doing this work, I was in a group session on a Sunday at the hospital I was working at, and I'm just doing my normal groups, and I came in with my sheet of paper with everybody on the list, and I was running around, and I just grabbed the list from the nurse. I come in the group room, and I proceeded to take roll, and I'm going down the list. Sandra, you here? All right. Sharon, are you here? Okay. Here comes a name. That's a trigger. Didn't know it was a trigger until the moment. Now, how many people you think has my name? I mean, my dad's name. Okay, I mean, it's, So I read it and I go, no, I proceed to read it, and I shed a tear in front of group.
Oh my wow.
And I'm in there like, and because some of us want to, and I wasn't boohooing, but I was just like, because I was trying to figure out what to do.
Right.
But it naturally came out.
Right.
And everybody's looking at me, and I said, and this is where vulnerability comes into play. Because as strong as I am in a lot of things, and the therapeutic relationship I have everybody in the group, and they've known me for each week, I use it for myself, but also for them. And I said, can I share some with y'all? And I said, and I was being straight up. I said, my dad's name is Randy. And that was the first time I spoke his name since his death. Because, what do you say, dad, right? And
Right.
I said, that was my first time. And so I'm
Mm.
shedding a
Wow.
tear for two things. A, not be, yes, that I'm saying his name and I just realized it. I said, the other part is I'm not as emotional as I was before. And
Right.
and seeing that helped me realize I'm working through it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because before I might have had a whole episode, needed a break, time out, maybe went home.
Right.
And I was like, right, done,
Yeah.
tap, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, because I was in the anger phase at the moment, right?
Right.
But I was sitting there smiling with the tear, like, look
It's
at me,
getting better.
look at me,
Yeah.
getting better.
Hmm.
The small wins, and of
Mhm.
Yep.
course, he wasn't even in group, by the way.
Oh,
So
really?
I went to his room and I said, because it was inpatient psych, you guys. So you say you go into his room, but it was inpatient psych, and I went to his room. I said, Mr. Randy, and he said, yeah. I'm like, let me tell you a story. Nice to meet you. And I told him everything. He was like smiling, crying. I said, and you should have came to group. You had me crying. But anyway, but I say that to say and tell that story as far as grief that shows up, right?
Hmm.
Sharing, you're mentioning yours, right? Trauma
Mhm.
and grief. That I needed a place where, even though I'm servicing clients, so that's my job is to service clients, right? But
Mhm.
showing that I am human
Mhm.
and that grief can get better over time. Now, I
Yes.
could have easily been like this. Just got an allergy. Excuse me. I'm
Right.
gonna
That's right. That's right. That's true.
in a second,
Yes.
right? And I probably would have moved on,
Right. Right.
right? But that place of vulnerability to say with
Yes.
strangers or people I don't know, right, is to say
Hmm.
I'm allowed this space and opportunity because it was a healing moment,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's
We go
beautiful.
through a lot, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And we deny a lot. Like you're talking
Oh,
about
ooh,
being honest, right? And that
yeah.
place of vulnerability is where we all fear. So that's where the armor comes in. It's like, no, I'm not going there. Because
Mhm.
if I
No,
go
not
there, that vulnerable place, then I'll be exposed. And
Mhm.
then if I'm
uh,
exposed, you might hurt me,
Mhm.
right? And especially if I
mm,
have a past where I've been hurt, it's like
correct.
that's no. So
Mhm.
I'm not opening that place again. That's
Right.
No, not
locked
at all. Why,
down.
why would I do that?
Right. That's crazy talk. Right.
Crazy, crazy,
But
crazy.
that's where we need to get to because everybody's not going to hurt us. Right. But that's when we
Right.
have to know our audience too. Right. Everything's not for everybody.
Right.
Obviously, you felt safe enough in that environment, Romaine, to be able to say, and probably because it was a therapeutic environment,
But you
where
know
you
what
were.
too? But you know what too? I don't think I had a choice. See,
Right.
the theme is I'm trying to be in control.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I didn't have a choice.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean, after that, like you said, you
Oh,
could have
when I
said
went to right, right.
allergies, but you just owned it.
Oh yeah, just
You-
oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Because you know what? I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And could anybody be a testimony in this chat? I'm hoping
Oh.
I can see when you are tired of carrying and holding as much as I want to hold it, you guys, and I want to
Mhm.
carry it,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, right? Because it's safety, but so tired that I have no other choice
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
but to surrender,
Mhm.
Right.
to let go,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Because
Right.
So.
we don't ever want to appear weak. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm,
hold it and hold it and hold it and like, oh, I got it. I got it. Oh, don't worry, I got it. And then on the inside, you're messing yourself up and you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking that you're looking wonderful and you are like everybody's seeing you at this great spot. But what's actually happening on the inside of you
right.
when you're constantly saying, I got that. Okay, I got it. Don't worry, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what messes us up is
Absolutely.
always feeling like we got it when we don't and being vulnerable enough to say, let me just tell you. Now, the one thing about me, I am vulnerable enough. Sometimes I go in group Romaine and I'm talking so much about me, they're like, can we have something to say, Miss Sandra? Can we? I know you was talking about this particular thing, but can I tell you
You
about
know
me?
what?
I'm like, oh, okay, it ain't about me. So
I know, and so I'm glad you swinging it around to now we're talking about relationships.
Yes.
Sorry,
Uh-huh.
and hope that someone can talk a little bit about this in the chat as well. How in relationships, romantic, friendship, or family,
Hmm. Hmm.
how it's also difficult to be vulnerable with.
Hmm.
I've been with my husband since I was 16, so it's been
Wow.
28 years together,
Wow.
18 married. Hopefully,
Beautiful.
he keeps me around because I fessed up, you know. But anyway, but being vulnerable in a sense of, and just to give you, as far as my journey with breast cancer, um, it was two things that I had to be vulnerable with him, and he was so prepared and ready to be there in that
Mhm.
moment. Right? It
That's
was me, like, so I am going to, um, excuse me, I'm talking about my husband. He right here.
oh,
Um, so he didn't get the memo that I'm
right.
in, we live. But anyway, he's looking for something. But anyway, I'll text him. Anyway, so I ain't that my guy. He knew he had to be here. But anyway,
That's right.
so I
There you go.
yeah. So when I had to get surgery, so just sharing a little bit of journey, I had to get my left breast removed for sure. That was
Okay.
a given. And I made the decision to get both of them removed. I just felt like, I was pretty young
Hmm.
ish, and I didn't want that anxiety of like keep checking every year, and
Right.
the next thing you know, then
Hmm.
the other breasts, right? So I said,
Hmm.
take both of them, right?
Wow.
And when I made that decision, I it wasn't the first thing I thought about, but as you play, I was thinking about saving my life and all that,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then as I went down, I go, oh shoot, how is this going to affect my marriage?
Right. Hmm.
Will it affect my marriage?
Hmm.
Right? And
Hmm.
I was like, okay. So of course he knew that was my decision. But the next conversation about this is, so then my breast won't be there
Right.
for a little bit. And then I did decide to get reconstruction there, surgery. So I do have implants in. Um, so the doctor did a good job, y'all. That's a whole nother story. We'll talk.
There you go.
So they look good. They look good in the clothes, right? It could
That's
show.
right. That's
But
right.
anyway, but we'll talk
I
about
wasn't
that surgery
calling you
later.
what you told me.
Yeah,
That's another show, Nikki.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another shot. That's another shot. But 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 I was scared to
Hmm.
talk to, and everybody know me scared. I don't know, but I was scared to go. So what does that look like for you and I?
Hmm.
I didn't think he would like. I wasn't in one of those places like he would leave me situation.
Right.
No, but I was like,
Hmm.
I gotta
That's
talk to my
real.
husband.
That's
Yeah, like
real.
we've been together for so long. I'm like, now I gotta talk to you about our intimate, like our life,
Right.
our
Right.
intimacies, and this is a change. And I had to, and I didn't talk to my friends about it. I didn't talk to anybody about it.
Hmm.
Like, how should I bring that up? Kind of talk
Right.
about it.
Right.
And I was so nervous. I was so scared. And of course he was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what do you
Right.
mean?" And that like lightened the load. He's like, "If you don't get out of here, you
Right.
know,
Right.
I don't
Right.
care if they
Right.
this or that or whatever." And
Hmm.
that
That's
definitely took a
beautiful.
load. But it's just
Hmm.
interesting, like how women we do think about these things.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
we're talking about thinking about ourself and self-care, we're thinking about how does that impact someone else,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
But it's also reality too.
Right. Right. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Mm.
let me because we have a few comments here that have been up here for a while, but I didn't
Okay.
want to stop your flow,
Oh,
Romain.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. Go. Yeah, yeah. I like the interaction.
So Tiffany says, while I am a breast advocate and survivor, this month is breast cancer awareness month. I made sure I
And
am, I guess, doing
Mhm.
things to feed my soul during this month, along with the advocacy, and it's been wonderful.
I
that's
agree.
good.
Honey Bunches says vulnerability is sharing, exposing your raw emotions, regardless of how others may respond. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That's beautiful.
Tiffany also says vulnerability is the lab results that expose me and said, Tiff, you not really eating like you think.
Right.
Oh, wow.
You like what? What you say now? Hold on. Who, me? What?
Right, right.
What?
Netta says, I agree, honey bunches, no matter whether it's a physical feeling or spiritual or something that hurts you, but somehow we must get over it.
Mm,
Um, the whole get over it part,
yeah.
wording I'm going to touch on because a lot of people use that word, but it diminishes and simplifies things that aren't
Correct.
really that simple. Because if we could just get over it, we would, right?
Correct.
And I'm not saying, Mom, I'm not saying anything, about what you're saying because you might not have meant it that way. You might have just said it, but get over. A lot of times you'll hear people say that. And if it
Right,
was that easy, you think people want to behave like that, want to think like that, want to be like
right,
that? And if
right,
we just look at our own selves with our own stuff, it's like, well, you know what? I can't just get over whatever those things are that I'm doing because we all have stuff.
Right.
So when we think about it, let's not tell people or even look at something in the fact of just get over it. It's a
Correct.
process. And
it's more,
sometimes
let's get through it.
more
Yeah.
difficult than others,
Yeah.
depending on the depth of the issue or the depth of the trauma, right?
Mhm,
And the length of time that thing has been there,
mhm,
right? So I just
And if
wanted
you're
to,
ready, and if you're willing to actually tap into that
mhm.
situation
right,
and
exactly.
tap into being exposed in a
Hmm.
way, right? And what does that mean? Because also to be exposed, right,
You out
Right.
there.
means it might be a place where people are going to come left and right or not, but you don't know.
Hmm.
Right, right, right.
What did
Exactly.
my auntie say? Oh, yes, able to say
Incarceration
no.
says
Mm,
vulnerability means being able to say no or not now or I don't want to because I need to do self-care, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, etc. Absolutely.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
that's a hard one.
All these things.
Let me tell you about that word. Those are two little letters, N and O.
yeah,
Right.
I always would struggle with that. To the point now, if you went in my office, there's little stickies everywhere that my coworkers have put all over my wall. No, no, Sandra, you can say no. You're in the middle of doing something. The client say, I need Miss Sandra, can you need to be able to say no. But a part of, I guess, me really trying to be vulnerable enough to say, Sandra, you ain't everything and you ain't got everything. So
right, right,
girl, you listen, calm yourself down. They can wait. You can say no. So I was talking about when I turned 50, I had like some things that I'd said, okay, when I turned 50, I said to myself and to others, okay, I'm going to start saying no to some things. I'm going to start, if I'm
I get it.
off, I'm going to say, before I say yes to your thing, I'm going to see if it's something that I want to do. I don't want to
Correct.
always please because I got to be honest. As a part
Yeah.
of vulnerability, I am somewhat of a people pleaser. I am.
Mm.
Go ahead and confess
Somewhat,
to
somewhat.
that. I was trying to be nice, girl.
We put ourselves out there.
Okay, I'm totally a people pleaser. Okay, okay, it's true.
Yes, yes.
So as soon as somebody would ask me to do something, okay, all right, it's cool. But at 50, because they
Yeah,
say 50 is when things are supposed to change. So now, like I said, I'm 61 now. When I turned 50, I made these like mantras. I will not do something that I don't want to do
right.
unless I want to do it. Now, of course, have I been saying no a lot back then? Like right as soon as I turned 50, I was like, yeah, no, no,
No,
no.
no,
You know,
no. People like that. Ooh, what happened? Yeah.
so now,
That didn't
so,
happen.
right. But I do better. And
Yeah.
I can say no better than I
Right.
used to. But I had to really just say to myself, girl, sit down somewhere and stop
Uh,
acting like you're the end all be all of everybody's things that they need to have done. There's other
correct.
people they can go through. None of these are even your clients. You know what I mean? They're not even on your caseload. You don't even have a caseload,
Oh,
and they
you know what?
so
But
just
because
get
it
your
leads
no.
them, but it leads them not be able to take care of things for themselves too. But I do believe in no because I can quickly say no too, in general. But I also have room for also with some edits.
Okay,
Meaning, can you know, take me X, Y, and Z? Hey, I might not be able to take you X, Y, and Z today.
right,
But I can order Uber for you if you need some support.
Right.
you know, with some edits, or I can do that particular thing for you, not at the time that you're requesting,
Right.
but I'm
Right.
available Thursday between
Right. Right.
11 and 1, because
Right.
there is a difference between being available and easily accessible.
I've always
So
been so easily
let's
accessible.
let's talk about that too, because when we talking about vulnerability, you
Mhm.
have to have the strength and the courage to figure out which one are you doing, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So to be and I don't know if anybody want to give the difference in the chat. So to be available is to go, okay, all right, let's see, I have the hours between such and such on this day and that day and that day. That means there's limits and boundaries to
I
it,
don't have those.
right? Versus easily accessible is when you're in your office and the door's wide open and people can just feel like they coming in, right? In and
Yeah.
out,
All that.
right?
All
All
that.
day, all day.
Sandra, you're gonna love this. Netta says, Sandra, I have never heard you say no.
She working on it, Auntie. She working on it. She working on
Netta.
it.
Oh Lord, I'm in
But you
So
know
trouble.
what? Because that also leaves you exposed. Why are we? You're
Yes.
not the only one in the whole earth,
Yeah.
right? And there's people that say no all the time. I wonder well, what you scared of?
Right. Right. Right.
The closeness, the relationship that's about to be formed, you know,
Right.
the
Right. Right.
bond that's about to be
Right.
formed in this relationship, right? Why do we engage in these behaviors?
Right. Right.
Right? There's a lot of defense mechanisms that we
Right.
have.
Uh-oh. Will you
So
say
Netta is clarifying as something when we talked about get over it earlier. She says, you're right, Sharon, of course, but that's why I say somehow we must get over it in spiritually. I know I have to get over negative attacks for no reason at all. So spiritually, I know that, but humanly, it's hard for me. But somehow I am going to have to find a way, if at all possible, to get over it. And so we understand what she means when she says get over it, work on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Negative attacks. That's interesting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
Maybe
Number
maybe
8.
call her after the show.
Yes,
Show
yes,
number 8.
yes.
Huh.
You know,
Huh.
Romain, when you talked about vulnerability, you said accessibility or what was
Versus being available or easily accessible.
I love that. I do love that because I have been told, why do you have to do that now for them? We're talking. Can't they wait?
Mm.
I'll just drop stuff or either even be in group, I could be doing group and if a client come to the door, excuse me, Miss Sandra, I'm doing group. Miss Sandra, can you I need this so and so. Okay, hold on, I'll be back. And my supervisor would say, why did you leave group? Oh, because so and so need, yeah, but you was doing group.
Mm.
So now I'm not doing that today, but
Right,
I'm
right. But
saying
you talking
I've
about
been there
then,
for
right, right.
21 years. So of course I've learned some things. And I do say no more now than I previously was, but it took a lot of time because I was always available and easily accessible, right?
Right.
Until my folks, they be on me like, no, she's not a baby. Some people stand outside my door. No, she's not here. No, she's
Well,
not
listen,
coming.
I do a whole group about that topic,
Yeah,
because that's something you really got to dig down deep with,
yeah,
and that stems from a lot of different things. It
yeah,
stems from your role that you play in your family, the
yeah.
role you play in your community or your friend group or professionally.
Mhm.
It didn't come out of nowhere, right?
Right, right, right,
Um, but how can we begin to be more accessible and available for our feelings and our
right,
emotions, especially
right.
when it comes to being, vulnerable? It can have this roller coaster ride, right?
That's true.
As Sharon's mentioned before, like one day you're all right, then you get triggered, then you're tearful, then you're like, well, wait a minute, hold on, I'm here, I gotta be present,
Mhm,
and it sends you on this roller coaster,
mhm.
right? But the question is, and for anybody in the virtual world, what is the consequences
Right.
when you don't tap in?
Oh boy.
When you don't tap into what?
When you don't tap into your true emotions and feelings
Mhm,
Right.
without
Yeah.
judgment, like what is your consequences for that,
mhm.
Mhm.
right? So let's take like a half a second to really sit down with that. What is your consequences when you
Mhm,
don't sit with your feelings and emotions? Because either you're thinking about what other people's responses are, or
mhm,
you are the people pleaser, or you play a particular role in your family, like the
mhm,
caregiver, etc.
mhm, mhm.
What is your consequence?
One thing people do, they care too much about what other people think and
Correct.
how they're going to view them. And it's like
Right.
these are my emotions. I could care less what you think about my emotions. Stop trying to
Mm-hmm.
tell me and don't tell me how to deal with my emotions. If I want to cry, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
If I want to be
Or
angry, I'm going
I'm
to
gonna
be
be
angry.
angry. I'm be angry. Yeah.
Totally appropriate. It's how we deal with the anger that might be inappropriate, but
Mhm,
anger is appropriate,
mhm, mhm.
right?
Right. We know it's a
So,
secondary emotion. We know we was gonna talk about that. But also
exactly.
besides anger and happiness, because adults act like they ain't no other feelings in between. So I think they go happy, angry, anxiety, and then I forgot the other
There's
one right now.
nothing
It's
else.
all it's all huh?
There's nothing else.
No, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. And I'm
Right,
like,
right.
so when I do this with my clients, I'm like, let me pull out the emotional wheel for you. I know it's gonna seem a little childish, but and they get all into it like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, because I feel, and I'm like, we have so many other emotions and feelings,
Right.
right,
Mhm.
that we can tap in. It can be lonely, it can be resentful, it can be proud, it can be resort a fear, isolate. It's so many different emotions.
Mhm, mhm,
Right.
The question is, what is our consequences
mhm.
Mhm.
when we don't tap into it, which also affects our self-care?
Right.
Right. We can internalize if those emotions and then become depressed. That's a
Mhm,
consequence,
Mm,
right? Or we can become anxious. That's a
correct.
consequence, right? And so while you all are thinking about that, I'm going to just say this shortly because we're getting close to our time.
Ah,
The primary emotions and the secondary emotions that Nikki just mentioned, most of the emotions are secondary,
mhm.
right? Any
right.
issue, and I want you guys in the audience and to think about this for yourselves because this is what I'm going to tell you is so key that if
Mm,
you take this nugget of knowledge and even work it yourself without even going to a therapist, because you got to go to therapy to learn this, or unless you go to
right.
school.
Right.
You take this nugget that I'm about to say, you become so enlightened about yourself. It is unbelievable. That's how much this one nugget is going to do for you.
Mhm.
So, most emotions are secondary. That means that's the ones we know. If I'm angry and I punch the wall, and I know I'm angry, and I know I punched the wall because I'm angry, right? I know that. I
Mhm,
consciously know that.
mhm,
Subconsciously is where we're vulnerable. That's the place we don't want to go.
mhm,
That's the place where the emotions are like, ooh, I don't want to touch that, right?
mhm,
Because that's where our trauma lies, our issues, etc.
mhm,
And
Right.
because your subconscious, we don't know, right? Typically, therapy brings the subconscious to the conscious, and now we can deal with it,
mhm,
right?
Correct.
mhm,
So there's only five, that is it, primary emotions. And of those five, all of our issues, no matter what issues we have, are in those five. Now, joy is one of them. So we're going to take joy out because
Okay.
we don't do therapy for joy,
Right.
Ah,
right? Joy is a primary emotion. So really, all of our issues lie in four. So whatever traumas, whatever issues you have, unresolved issues, you can trace it back to these four that I'm about to tell you. One of these four, or it could be multiples of those four. And a lot of times when you find fear, you find shame. Fear, shame, disgust, and
right.
sadness.
Right.
Fear, shame. Ayana, can you write that in the chat? The primary emotions are fear, shame, disgust, sadness, and joy. But for the sake of issues, we're not really dealing with joy, but it's a primary emotion.
Unless you feel like you don't deserve joy.
Right. But then that goes to
Whole
probably
nother
one of
story.
the other
That's a
ones.
whole nother story. Right. Right.
Right. But now, sometimes anger can be a primary emotion if it's true just anger. But typically, anger, there's something under it, some type of hurt. But I'm
Mhm,
acting out angrily because I'm hurt.
Correct.
Right. So it's typically a secondary emotion. So when you get to that place of vulnerability where those four or five that I just talked about, you trace it back to its earliest inception. Typically, it's childhood,
mhm.
right? When so and so did this, or when this happened, this is how I felt. I felt fear, and that's why we've had fear ever since then. That's why
Or
we've
I
had
Mhm.
don't let nobody. I don't let
ever
nobody
since
play with
then.
me and talk down to me because I yeah because I've been bullied all my life.
Mhm.
I ain't
Exactly,
gonna let that happen to me. So
and
every
it
time you come for me,
carries.
I'm
Yep,
coming for you.
And it
Right.
shows up in our relationships and how we communicate. We behave the way we behave for a reason, right? And
Hmm.
our outward behavior is a manifestation of our subconscious emotions, the ones you don't know about, the fear, the shame, the disgust, the sadness. Our outward behavior is a manifestation of what you don't realize. That's why therapy is so important, so you can understand yourself.
Hmm.
Now I know why I think, I behave, I communicate, I do the things that I do because of what is hidden.
That's
That,
right.
I know I experienced this trauma or this wound, but I just didn't know how it affected me, and
Mhm.
how behavior is a manifestation of that. That's why nonverbal communication is upwards of 90% of communication.
That's
And
right.
I'm sorry about that alarm. The nonverbal communication, right?
Hmm.
The truth. I can say, if I say to you, you ask me, how are you feeling? Like, I'm feeling good. What are you going to believe? You're going to believe I'm feeling good, or what you,
Uh-huh.
right? And so the
Right.
nonverbals never lie. And the nonverbals is what your subconscious is telling your body to do. That's why when people know that you're lying, because it's showing on your body. They might not
You
tell
telling
you
your
that
telltales. Don't be
they
telling me no lie. Don't be telling me no lie.
exactly. They'll walk
But
away like,
you're
girl, she was
right.
lying. Smile on your face, girl, she was lying. Because we saw it. We saw it.
Yeah. Or if we talk about vulnerability, I'm not gonna let no man or no woman talk to me like that, because
Right.
my daddy ain't talk to me like, or my mama ain't talk to me like that. But and I ain't had him in my life. I ain't need no. And next thing you know, you go, whoa, 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 whoa,
Exactly.
whoa, whoa,
Yep.
whoa.
Yep.
So you can't let that get down. Let somebody husband
Right.
hold you. You can't let that
Right.
man, that woman, because you done got all this built up,
Right.
fear issues. Right,
Oh my
right.
gosh.
The
That is so good.
consequences of not tapping into.
Woo.
Okay, let me read
Man,
a
this
couple
is
more
so good.
responses here. Sharon says, we are responsible to be better stewards of our time for our physical and mental health. Absolutely.
Yes, that's right, Sharon.
Absolutely.
And
Mm-mm-mm.
April says, I'm driving. Consequence, missing out on what you could gain or learn. That's a
Oh,
consequence.
that's
Yeah,
good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's
absolutely.
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that is so
Oh
good.
man, there's so much more to talk
I
about. We didn't
Oh,
even
know.
scratch
I
the
know.
surface.
I know. But you know
please.
what? I'm gonna leave on this note with this, because I want to leave with something of a win, or how do we do a self-care practice. So
Okay.
in real time, because it is breast cancer awareness month, but I wanted to do this in general for my own journey with my body, and being with me. And we didn't talk about it, choosing to go low hair, um, dealing with my breasts, etc. And as a movement therapist, I know that the body work is very important. So I did call one of my really good friends, has a dance studio, and she's allowing me to use her space just to move my emotions out by myself. I may record, I may not, for
Mhm.
myself, but just to go in that space and let me explore myself through movement in this new
Wow.
body at 43 also too. But
Wow.
those challenges, but really explore what that journey meant to me through
Mhm.
movement. And so
Mhm.
that's my self-care practice
That is
this
Okay,
month.
beautiful.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
When you said it, I could picture you in that studio, just
Mhm.
Uh,
dancing, because I know you're a dancer, and
yeah.
moving around and just getting free, you
Just
know?
getting free. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, man, you may have to record that.
I think
yeah.
I am. I
I
think
think
whatever
it'll
my
be a
spirit allows, because
healing. It'll be
at first I wanted to take a dance class. I've been writing this down for months.
okay.
And when I reached out to her and said, "Hey, I want to see what you got available at your studio, what's going on?" And when she said, "Hey, I'll let you go in there by yourself and do it," I said, maybe this whole time I needed this for me. I was thinking
Right.
about
Mhm.
doing it with someone else.
Right.
So I'm gonna do that journey.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I
So even
think
if
that
you
if
just
You
you
guys about to
just
make me
record it
tear up.
for yourself, even
You
if you
guys
just
about to
record
make
it
me
for
tear up.
yourself,
go ahead and tee up, child. Go ahead and do it.
this is the
Because I
safe
know I
place
need
to
that.
do it, you know?
Yes. And you
But
know,
yeah,
Romain, you know how you can watch somebody dancing
Oh, I know.
and
I've been
it's
there.
such a healing for someone else. So
Yeah.
you gotta record it.
That's why I'm in this
Yeah.
profession. I know the healing elements of dance.
Right. So
You
mhm.
know?
you have to record it. That is just so beautiful for your self-care, the vulnerability. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Sounds like show number 8.
Exactly. And I think that, in your doing this and
Yes.
recording it, God has given you an anointing, Nikki, for
Mm.
that. And so when you do this as a part of your healing journey, that video is going to be so anointed that
So
I
Right.
believe the Holy Spirit is going to use that to help heal other people who
That's
watch
right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for this, you guys, today. Thank you, everyone else, too,
You
that
gotta
joined.
come back. You gotta come back.
Yes.
I'll come back as long as the people,
Out.
as long as those people upstairs don't come to this door. I'll
Yeah.
be back. 'Cause I just text my husband, don't do that. Now you know what?
Well, you know what was funny though? He came at the exact right time when you were
I
Yeah.
know. And he don't never come to my office.
see
He
that.
heard his name.
Yeah.
You said you've been together since you was 16. He felt
Yeah.
that vibe.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my
What
boo.
you saying about me?
That's my boo. But I
So,
appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
we appreciate you.
Oh
And
man, this
we have
was
the
so
next,
good.
the next couple of shows already planned out. So we're going to call
Touch
you
base.
about getting back because there's
Yeah.
this is so meaty and so necessary. And I
Yes.
believe the audience, you guys can write in the chat. How was this for you? Talking
Yes.
about the vulnerability of self-care. And also Nikki, myself, and Sandra, we all shared some of our vulnerability and our stuff. And what we need to do, we know it, but we need to not just know it, we need to do something about it.
Right.
Right. Because what good is the awareness if you don't do anything about it? Because that's
Absolutely.
even worse than not knowing. Right.
Yes.
When I know I'm jacked up in this area, and I'm just like, I'm good.
Right.
That's not a good look. Right. And so
Right.
I'm going to on this note. Romain talked about surrender earlier, and she was talking about surrender in the moment, but I also too believe she was talking about what I'm about to say, and we should all do is surrender all to God,
Yes,
right?
that's what I meant.
There's
Mhm.
the scripture came to my mind, be naked and not ashamed before him. He knows it all anyway, but
Right.
we can be naked and unashamed of all of our stuff, that nastiness, right? The stuff that we don't even tell nobody, we wish God didn't even know, but he knows it anyway. But just be that way before him in our private time, with him, and just saying it out loud. Because what happens when we say it out loud, it kind of like, it makes it real when you hear yourself say stuff. If I don't say it, maybe it's not real, even though I know it is, you know what I mean? But saying it out loud to God who wants to comfort us in it and heal us from it. But if we keep it to ourselves, that means you're not surrendering all to him. And those of us who are believers, right? If we are truly walking the walk that we talk, which is the word of God, he doesn't say surrender 50%, surrender 75%. He says surrender all. But what do? We keep pushing this to ourselves, right? That's not surrender. God wants a true surrender. And in that surrender is where our freedom lies. So if you trust no one else, trust your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and surrender all to him. That is the message in this vulnerability of self-care. Be vulnerable before the Lord and surrender all to him so he can get to you what you don't even know you need. But he, right? And then watch what he does in your life. I'm living proof. Nikki's living proof. Sandra's living proof. That's why we're talking about it, because we know we've been through it and are going through it, right? We all want a healing journey. No matter how much we have healed, there's more healing to do because we're always going to be flawed.
Right.
So I just wanted to end with that.
All right.
And thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Nikki. This is so good.
Guys,
so good.
Absolutely. I appreciate that today.
So good.
I got something I needed. I wrote it down, and I'll do a testimony later.
All right.
Thank you for being.
We know you coming back.
I'm coming back.
Nikki might have to become, a co-host every now and then. Right?
Exactly. I slide on.
Let me know. Let me know. I'll be here with you guys. I love the conversation.
And thank you audience for watching. If you're watching the replay, answer the questions and we'll be in the chat on the replay. So no matter when you watch it live on the replay, we appreciate you. And, still put your information in the chat if you want to answer on the replay. Subscribe to the channel, like the Facebook page, like the video, and share the video. Don't keep all this to yourself.
And check me out on Facebook and LinkedIn, Romain Diaz, LLC.
Anything upcoming for you? Any groups that people can attend that you're doing or anything you want to share?
I think for Pink went well. Check the pictures I went wonderful actually. Check the pictures on the website. And I am a panelist on Let's Heal and Talk for women that's dealing with deciding to choose to go bald or had to go bald, etc. And we're going to talk about our testimony, our hair journey. Let's Talk and Heal. Please look at that's going to be November 16th. So
Okay.
it'll be posted, I think, tomorrow. Now that
Mhm.
the other event is done, to give you all the further information. So
Okay.
Give your website and your social media again.
yes, so www.romaindiazllc.org, and LinkedIn, Romain Diaz LLC.
Okay,
Okay.
and Facebook.
Oh, sorry, that's Facebook. Sorry, Facebook. Yeah, Romain Diaz LLC.
Okay.
Yes,
All
yes,
right. Thank
Yes.
you guys for watching. We will see you next
Yes.
week. We love you. God bless
Love you
you.
so much.
Shalom.
God bless you. Shalom. Yes.